The message appeared on every screen across the globe simultaneously. The Hydralins had arrived, and they were claiming Earth's oceans. Dr. June Park stared at the monitors in Seoul's Oceanographic Institute, watching the alien representative's translucent blue form deliver its message with cold precision. Your oceans are now under Hydralin authority. Resistance is inadvisable. June's hands trembled as he reached for his phone. He needed to call someone, anyone, but who would believe this? The alien's body looked like water given form, flowing, rippling, yet somehow solid. Its voice echoed with a strange gurgling undertone. Around him, his colleagues stood frozen in shock. Some recorded the broadcast on their phones. Others whispered in hushed tones. The Institute's director, an older man who had studied the oceans for 50 years, simply sat down and put his head in his hands. They can't just take our oceans, June said to no one in particular. That's 70% of our planet. The next day, reports came in from coastal cities worldwide. Strange lights beneath the waves. Unusual currents. Fish swimming in confused patterns. June barely slept, monitoring incoming data from research stations across the Pacific. By the third day, something broke the surface near Busan. A massive structure, glowing blue-green, rose slowly from the sea. It looked like a tower made of crystal and living coral, pulsing with internal light. Similar reports came from San Francisco, Sydney, Mumbai, Lagos. Everywhere, these alien structures were emerging from the depths. The Korean Navy sent ships to investigate. June watched the live feed as the vessels approached the structure off Busan. When they reached about 1 kilometer from the alien tower, they simply stopped. Engines at full power, they could not move forward. Some invisible barrier kept them away. The Haeyang, a research vessel specially equipped for deep-sea exploration, was given permission to attempt a closer approach. June's friend and colleague Dr. Soo Kim led the scientific team aboard. Their mission was to take readings from the alien structure and, if possible, to understand its purpose. Be careful, June told Soo during their last video call. We know nothing about their technology. That's why we're going, Soo replied with a small smile. Someone has to be first. The Haeyang approached the barrier that had stopped military vessels. To everyone's surprise, it passed through with no resistance. Later analysis would suggest the barrier was programmed to allow research vessels through while blocking military craft. For 6 hours, the Haeyang transmitted data. Readings showed massive energy outputs from the alien structure. Strange materials never before seen on Earth. And deeper scans revealed the tower extended far below, perhaps all the way to the ocean floor. Then, suddenly, all communication with the Haeyang stopped. Satellite imagery showed the research vessel floating peacefully near the structure 1 minute. The next minute, it was simply gone. No debris. No distress signal. 42 people, including Soo, had vanished. June reviewed the final transmissions in the Institute's main lab. The last readings showed unusual movement from the deep-sea trench east of Korea. Something large had moved when the alien structure activated a new energy field. 3 more research vessels disappeared in the following days. Countries stopped sending ships altogether. The Hydralins began broadcasting messages about their oceanic resource extraction operation and how it would proceed without interference from surface dwellers. 1 week after first contact, June sat alone in his office, reviewing satellite imagery. The alien structures now numbered in the hundreds across Earth's oceans. They seemed to be positioning themselves above deep-sea trenches and other significant underwater features. They're acting like nothing else lives down there, he muttered, zooming in on one structure. That's going to be their mistake. On his screen, he noticed something the Hydralins had apparently missed. Near one of their Pacific structures, a massive shadow moved beneath the waves. Not a submarine or any human craft, this was something organic. Something huge. And it was moving with purpose toward the alien tower. June leaned forward, eyes wide. The oceans had kept secrets for millions of years. Ancient creatures still lived in the deepest parts, rarely seen by human eyes. The Hydralins had claimed Earth's oceans without asking permission from those who had ruled the depths long before humans or aliens arrived. And it seemed those ancient rulers were beginning to notice the intruders. 3 months into the occupation, the oceans were changing. Fish populations collapsed near hydroland structures. Currents shifted unnaturally. Strange lights pulsed in the depths. The sea around Jeju Island looked different now. The once clear blue waters had taken on a sickly green tint. Local fishermen returned with empty nets day after day. Those who ventured too far didn't return at all. Dr. June Park gazed through the reinforced glass window of the hidden facility built into Jeju's rocky coastline. His makeshift lab had been set up in an old military bunker, abandoned decades ago and now repurposed for something its builders could never have imagined: monitoring an alien occupation of Earth's oceans. "The satellite images came in," said Yuna, his assistant, placing a tablet in front of him. 3 more structures appeared overnight. That makes 28 in Korean waters alone. June nodded grimly. The glowing blue towers had multiplied across every ocean on Earth. Governments had protested, then threatened, then finally fallen silent. What could they do against beings who commanded technology so advanced it might as well be magic? "Is the submersible ready?" June asked. "Hyun is doing final checks now. We launch in 30 minutes. The small team had salvaged the submersible from a university research program. It wasn't much, just a tight pod with cameras, lights, and basic sampling equipment, but it was their only window into what was happening beneath the waves. Hyun Lee had been a submarine pilot in the Navy before the Hydrolands came. Now he risked his life daily, guiding their little craft through waters patrolled by alien vessels. "Remember, stay at least 2 kilometers from any Hydroland structure," June reminded him as Hyun prepared to launch. "Unless we see something worth getting closer for," Hyun replied with a wink. The submersible slipped beneath the waves, its electric motors nearly silent. They had learned that the Hydrolands detected sound and heat, so they'd modified their vessel to minimize both. 2 hours into the mission, they found what they were looking for. A hydroland harvesting operation was underway on the ocean floor, about 3 kilometers from one of the main towers. "Recording everything," Yuna said through the comm system from the base. The camera feed showed bizarre machines moving across the seabed. They resembled giant crabs made of blue crystal, scooping up sediment and passing it through glowing appendages. "They're extracting something from the sediment," said Hyun, pointing to the screen in the cramped cockpit. "And look, they're driving away or capturing any large predators." The cameras showed several Hydroland guards, tall, fluid figures encased in armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal, herding a group of sharks away from the operation. Another guard dragged a net containing several large fish toward a pulsing blue portal. "They're collecting the marine life," June whispered. "But why?" Hyun cautiously moved the submersible closer, using a ridge of coral as cover. The Hydroland machines continued their work, oblivious to the human observers. Then something changed. The water around them seemed to shift. A current that shouldn't exist pushed against the submersible. "What's happening?" June asked as Hyun struggled with the controls. "Something's moving out there. Something big." The footage suddenly shook violently. Alarms blared inside the small craft as it was caught in a powerful surge of water. Through the viewport, they glimpsed something massive moving at the edge of their lights. "What was that?" gasped June, gripping his seat as the submersible stabilized. The external cameras swiveled, trying to track the movement. For a moment, there was only the murky blue of the ocean. Then it appeared, a shape so large it defied comprehension. Tentacles the size of train cars moved with surprising grace through the water. The creature, if that's what it was, headed straight for the Hydroland harvesting operation. The alien guards turned, weapons raised. Energy pulses lit up the water but seemed to have no effect on the approaching giant. The main camera captured the moment perfectly, a Hydroland guard post being crushed by enormous tentacles. Blue fluid that might have been Hydroland blood mixed with the seawater. The alien machines scattered, abandoning their work. Then the camera feed cut out. In the darkness of the submersible, Hyun turned to June. The faint emergency lights illuminated his face as he smiled grimly. "I think they just met one of the neighbors." The journey back to the hidden base was tense. Twice they had to hide from passing Hydralin patrols, which seemed to be searching for something, or someone. When they finally surfaced in the hidden cove beneath the facility, Yuna was waiting with news. The Hydralin command issued a new statement, she said, her face pale. They're claiming that hostile indigenous aquatic life forms damaged one of their operations. They've authorized the elimination of all large marine organisms in the area. June looked at the recovered footage again. What they had witnessed wasn't just an animal acting on instinct. The creature had targeted the Hydralin specifically, ignoring the human submersible completely. They think they can just eliminate anything in their way, he said quietly. But I think they've just started a war they didn't expect, with the original rulers of the deep. Deep beneath the Pacific, ancient eyes opened. The Hydralin's energy pulses had penetrated the abyssal trenches, disturbing hibernation cycles maintained for millennia. In the darkness where sunlight never reached, something stirred. The creature had no name in human language. It had existed since before humans walked the earth. Its kind had watched the dinosaurs die and the mammals rise. And through all that time, they had remained hidden in the deepest parts of the ocean, sleeping, waiting, watching. Now, strange energies disturbed their ancient home. The creature felt others of its kind awakening too. A silent call spread through the deep waters. Something new had entered their domain. Something that did not belong. Dr. June Park hadn't slept properly in days. The secret facility on Jeju Island had become a hub of frantic activity. After their submersible had recorded the attack on the Hydralin harvesting operation, similar reports began coming in from around the world. The secure phone in his pocket buzzed. Only 5 people had this number. Dr. Park speaking, he answered. June, it's Min. You need to see this. The voice of Dr. Min Choi, his former classmate now working at Busan's Marine Research Center, sounded strained. I'm sending you a video now. Our deep-sea monitoring station captured it an hour ago. June opened the file on his tablet. The grainy footage showed the ocean floor, lit only by the station's lights. Then massive shapes moved through the frame. Not one, but several enormous creatures, swimming with purpose. Our sonars are picking up biological signatures unlike anything in our records, Min continued. Some of them are over 100 meters long. Whatever these things are, they're heading toward the Hydralin installations near Jeju. June felt a chill run down his spine. I'm coming to Busan. Have your team ready. The drive to Busan took 4 hours. June noticed fewer cars on the road than usual. People were staying home, afraid of what might happen next in this strange new world where aliens controlled the seas. Min met him at the research center, looking tired but excited. There's someone you need to meet, he said, leading June through the facility. In a small conference room, a man sat surrounded by old books and scrolls. He looked up as they entered, his eyes bright with excitement. Dr. Park, this is Dae Kong. He's a cryptozoologist. June had heard of Kong. Most scientists dismissed his work as fantasy, the study of sea monsters and other creatures that didn't exist. But after what June had seen in recent weeks, he was ready to listen. The legends weren't myths, Day explained, spreading ancient scrolls on the table. The yellowed papers showed drawings of enormous sea creatures attacking ships. Some looked like giant squid, others like serpents or dragon-like beings. These deep trenches harbor species that evolved in complete isolation. Some of them are intelligent, and they've defended these waters before. Defended? June asked, studying the drawings. Against what? Against us, initially, Day said. There are records going back centuries of these creatures destroying ships that ventured into certain waters. But they've mostly left humans alone for the past 100 years. It's almost as if they reached some kind of understanding, stay away from the deepest parts of the ocean, and they'll leave us be. Min pulled up a map on the wall screen. The Hydralins have been positioning their structures directly above deep-sea trenches. Their energy harvesting goes deep, much deeper than we've ever drilled or explored. They're disturbing territories that have remained untouched for millions of years, Day added. As if confirming his words, an alarm blared through the facility. Min rushed to a computer terminal, typing rapidly. The monitoring station near Ulundu is picking up massive seismic activity, he reported. It's centered on the Hydralin installation there. They watched in real time as data flowed in. The ocean floor cameras showed the base of a Hydralin tower, a massive blue structure that extended from the surface down to the seabed. Something dark moved at the edge of the camera's range. Then tentacles, each thicker than a subway train, wrapped around the base of the tower. The structure shuddered. Lights flickered along its length. The camera feed shook violently as more tentacles appeared, pulling downward with incredible force. In seconds, the entire Hydralin installation began sinking, dragged down into a trench that hadn't been there before. The tower's lights flashed in panic before going dark. Then it was gone, leaving only a swirling cloud of sediment. "My God," whispered June. "They've awakened the Guardians," Day said softly. "The ancient ones who ruled the depths long before humans or Hydralins existed." Min's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, then looked at them with wide eyes. Similar reports are coming in from the Philippines, Japan, and Alaska. Hydralin structures are being attacked by something. June stared at the now empty screen where they had witnessed the destruction of alien technology far more advanced than anything humans had created. Yet it had been pulled into the depths like a child's toy. "The Hydralins claimed Earth's oceans," he said. "But they forgot to ask permission from those who have always ruled the depths." The bioluminescent patterns were the key. Dr. Park and his team discovered that the deep creatures communicated through light sequences. With Day's help, they developed a primitive signaling system. The research vessel Hason rocked gently on the waves 50 miles off the coast of Jeju Island. It was a small fishing boat, chosen for its ordinary appearance. Nothing about it would attract Hydralin attention. Below deck, June Park, Day Cohn, and 5 others huddled around screens showing feeds from the underwater drones they had deployed. Each drone was equipped with special lights designed to mimic the patterns they had observed on deep-sea creatures. "The patterns repeat," June noted, pointing to a sequence on his screen. "Look, 3 short pulses, 2 long, pause, then reverse." Day nodded excitedly. "It's like Morse code, but with light instead of sound. These creatures evolved in the deep where sound travels too well, it would attract predators. But light can be controlled, directed." For 2 weeks, they had studied recordings from around the world. The giant creatures attacking Hydralin installations all showed similar light patterns along their bodies. Some glowed blue, others green or red, but the sequences had mathematical precision. "Ready to try?" June asked. The team programmed a simple sequence into one of their drones. 3 short pulses, 2 long, pause, reverse. The basic pattern they had seen repeated most often. The drone descended into the darkness. At 500 meters, they lost visual contact, relying only on the drone's sensors and cameras. At 1,000 meters, the pressure began to strain the drone's hull. "Wait," said Yuna, their technology specialist. "Something's coming up." On the screens, a massive shape appeared, rising from the depths. Light patterns rippled across what appeared to be a huge tentacled body. "It's responding to our signal," whispered Day. The creature approached the drone carefully. A tentacle larger than a bus gently touched the small machine. Then, to everyone's amazement, it began to flash its own pattern of lights directly at the drone's camera. "It's communicating," June said, his voice filled with awe. "It knows this is a message system." Over the next 3 days, they developed a basic communication method. The patterns seemed to represent concepts rather than specific words. They managed to convey simple ideas: human, not Hydralin; friend, not enemy; surface dweller, not deep invader. "They understand territory and threats," Day explained as they watched an enormous shadow pass beneath their research vessel on the 4th day. "They've been guardians of the deep for millions of years." The creature below them was at least 200 meters long. Its body resembled a giant squid, but with features no human had ever properly documented before. It circled their position for hours, occasionally rising close enough to be visible from the surface. "It's curious about us," June said. "It's studying our boat." Using modified underwater drones, they continued to communicate with what they now called the Guardians, ancient, intelligent creatures that considered the ocean depths their domain. On the sixth day, their drones managed to convey a more complex idea: cooperation against the Hydralins. The Guardians' response was a complex pattern of lights that took hours to interpret. "I think," Day said finally, "it's asking for proof of our intentions." That night, as the team slept, Hyun Lee, who was on watch, spotted something on the radar. "Ships approaching," he called, waking everyone. 3 vessels, moving fast. They rushed to the deck. In the distance, the unmistakable blue glow of Hydralin ships cut through the darkness. The aliens had found them. "They must have detected our drones," June said, his heart sinking. The Hydralin vessels were known to capture or destroy any human ships they encountered in their claimed territories. And they had no way to escape in time. As the Hydralin patrol approached, something massive broke the surface beside their boat. The Guardian they had been communicating with rose partially from the water, its enormous body dwarfing their small vessel. Light patterns flashed rapidly across its skin. Instead of attacking the human ship as they feared, it positioned itself protectively between the Haesong and the approaching aliens. Then, with devastating speed, it lashed out at the Hydralin crafts. Tentacles thicker than tree trunks smashed into the first alien vessel, crumpling its hull like paper. The second ship fired energy weapons, but the Guardian's skin seemed to absorb or deflect the blasts. It dragged the second ship under in seconds. The third Hydralin vessel turned to flee but didn't make it far. Another Guardian, even larger than the first, rose behind it and pulled it beneath the waves. In less than a minute, the threat was gone. The sea became calm again as the Guardians sank back into the water beside their boat. Before submerging completely, it flashed a now familiar light pattern at them, the one they had come to interpret as ally. "They're choosing sides," whispered Hyun, his face pale in the moonlight. "And they didn't choose the invaders." June looked out at the now quiet ocean. "We need to tell the government what we've found. These creatures aren't just attacking randomly, they're protecting their territory. And now, they're protecting us too." By dawn, their discovery was being shared with military and scientific leaders worldwide. Humanity had found unexpected allies in its fight against the Hydralin occupation. The true rulers of Earth's oceans had awakened, and they remembered who the real invaders were. The oceans boiled with conflict. Enormous shapes moved through the depths, targeting Hydralin structures with devastating effectiveness. The creatures, some resembling colossal squid, others like nothing humans had ever documented, seemed to communicate and coordinate their attacks. From the viewing port of the Korean submarine Haeang-2, June watched in awe. The submarine stayed at a safe distance, observing the battle unfolding near one of the largest Hydralin towers in the East Sea. A creature with tentacles longer than 5 buses moved with surprising grace. It wrapped its massive limbs around the base of the alien structure and squeezed. The blue material cracked and bent. "Amazing," whispered Hyun beside him. "They know exactly where to strike." The Guardians, as humans now called them, had learned the weak points of Hydralin technology. They attacked the energy conduits and support structures first, then crushed the command centers. Inside the submarine's control room, military officers from 6 countries watched the feeds with mixed expressions of fear and hope. For months, humanity had been helpless against the Hydralin occupation. Now they had allies they never expected. "All ships report ready," said Admiral Kong, looking at June. "Your signal system is working. The creatures are avoiding areas where our vessels operate." June nodded. The light-based communication method they had developed was simple but effective. The naval forces worldwide provided support, jamming Hydralin communications while the ancient Guardians did what they had evolved to do: protect their domain. On the main screen, satellite imagery showed similar battles happening across all oceans. The Guardians had emerged from every deep trench on Earth. Some were so large they could be seen from space when they surfaced. "The Hydralins are broadcasting a distress signal," reported a communications officer. "They're calling for reinforcements from their homeworld." Day, who had been studying the creature's movements, looked up sharply. "We need to end this quickly, then. Before more aliens arrive." June turned to the Admiral. Can we use the drones to direct the Guardians to the main Hydraland command center? We believe it's in the Mariana Trench. The plan worked better than anyone had expected. Using light signals from hundreds of drones, they guided the largest Guardians toward the central Hydraland base. The aliens had built their command center directly above the deepest part of the ocean, never realizing this was the most sacred territory of the ancient beings. The Haiyang 2 moved to a viewing position 10 miles from the target. The water around them vibrated as something massive passed beneath, a Guardian larger than any they had seen before. Its body stretched over half a kilometer in length, with glowing patterns rippling across skin that seemed almost metallic. The Ancient One, Day whispered. The legends spoke of the ruler of the deep, larger than all others. I didn't think it really existed. The enormous Guardian dove toward the Hydraland command center. What happened next made everyone watching fall silent in awe. The water around the alien structure began to glow. The huge creature wrapped itself around the entire base and seemed to pulse with energy. The Hydraland command center shuddered, then imploded, crushed by pressure and power beyond human comprehension. The Hydralands had never conducted proper biological surveys. They had claimed Earth's oceans without understanding that the true rulers of the deep had never relinquished their throne. Within hours, reports came in from around the world. One by one, the alien installations were destroyed. The few remaining Hydraland ships fled Earth's orbit, broadcasting warnings about the planet's hostile aquatic defenders. A week later, the oceans were quiet again. The Guardians had retreated to their deep trenches. The Hydraland structures were gone, leaving only debris that slowly sank to the ocean floor. June stood on the shores of Jeju Island, watching the waves. The sky was clear blue for the first time in months. Fish had returned to the coastal waters. Nature was healing quickly. Do you think they'll come back? Asked Yuna, standing beside him on the beach. The Guardians, I mean. I hope not, June replied. If they do, it means we're in trouble again. Humanity had learned an important lesson: Earth's oceans had never truly belonged to them. They were merely guests in a realm ruled by far older masters who had simply allowed humanity's presence until a common enemy appeared. The United Nations had already created a new agency dedicated to ocean protection. No deep-sea mining, no disturbing the trenches, no weapons testing in the water. Humans would respect the true owners of the deep. As the sun began to set, June noticed something in the water near the shore. A brief flash of blue-green light, pulsing in a pattern he recognized. 3 short, 2 long, pause, reverse. He smiled. It was the Guardian's signal for ally. We see you, he said softly to the ocean. And we thank you. The light flashed once more, then disappeared into the depths. The ocean held its secrets close, but now humanity knew they were not alone on their own planet. And they would never forget who truly ruled the depths. The end.